The alien marketplace was loud and crowded. Strange creatures from many planets filled the air with noise. Merchants shouted prices, buyers argued, and slaves cried behind cages. It was not a place for the weak. This was a place where beings were sold like animals. At the center of the market stood a large iron platform. On it, one last cage stood, different from the others. Inside was a girl, an alien girl, unlike anyone the market had ever seen. Her skin was bright green, glowing faintly under the dusty light. Her long silver hair fell like rivers over her shoulders, messy but shining. Her clothes were torn, a simple cloth that barely covered her body, but her eyes, her sharp, glowing eyes, burned with fire. She stared at everyone as if she wanted to kill them all. No one dared to come near her. The merchant beside her cage looked tired. He raised his hands and shouted, "The last prize of the day, a rare alien girl, beautiful, young, and strong." He paused, "But beware. She is wild. She has killed before." The crowd whispered in fear. They had heard the stories. She was captured from a dangerous jungle planet where even the strongest hunters feared to go. The last owner who bought her tried to tame her but died within days. No chains could hold her for long. She is untamable. Someone in the crowd shouted, "She is cursed." Another cried. The merchant laughed nervously. "She is fierce, yes. But imagine owning such power. A rare beauty, a deadly prize. Who dares to buy her?" Silence. No one stepped forward. The merchant wiped his forehead, growing frustrated. He looked around, hoping someone would be brave or foolish enough to make an offer. But the crowd only shook their heads. Then from the edge of the gathering, a deep voice spoke. "I'll buy her." Everyone turned. A human stood there. Tall, broad-shouldered, with short brown hair and a scar on his cheek. He wore black armor, scratched and dirty, showing he had seen many battles. A large blade hung on his back and his eyes were calm but sharp. His presence made even the bravest aliens uneasy. The merchant blinked. "You human? You want her?" The human nodded and walked closer to the cage. His eyes met the girl's. She did not flinch. She stared back with hate and pride. "Don't be stupid," a fat alien hissed. "She'd tear you apart." "She is not for humans," another sneered. "She will kill you just like the others." The human smiled faintly. "We'll see." The merchant chuckled. "You must pay a high price. She is dangerous, yes, but rare." "How much?" the human asked simply. The merchant named a number. It was high. Too high for a slave no one wanted. But the human did not argue. He tossed a small bag of coins on the table. The sound of heavy metal echoed in the air. Everyone watched in shock. The merchant checked the coins, then grinned. "Deal." The girl watched silently. She had seen many try to buy her. She had seen fear in their eyes. But this human's eyes were different, calm, strong, no fear, no greed, just curiosity. The merchant unlocked the cage carefully. The girl did not move. She stood proud, her eyes never leaving the human. She knew he would tie her, chain her, maybe beat her like the others. She was ready, but the human did something strange. He took a simple rope, tied her hands gently, not too tight, not too loose. Then he looked her in the eyes and spoke softly, "I'm not your enemy." She narrowed her eyes but stayed silent. The crowd watched, expecting her to attack. But she did not. She walked with the human, bound but still proud. The whispers followed them. "Crazy human. He will die by morning. He's a fool." But the human ignored them. He walked calmly, leading the girl through the dirty streets of the market. She followed, watching his back, waiting for the moment to strike. But something about him was different. No whip, no threats, no fear. For the first time she felt curious. Why did this human buy her? Why was he not afraid? What did he want? As they left the market, The human looked back once, his eyes thoughtful. He knew everyone. Believed he would die. But he had his reasons. He didn't see a monster. He saw someone lonely. Someone wild, yes, but not evil. The human whispered to himself, every beast has a story. And so the untamable alien girl, the last prize on the platform, was no longer alone, but the real story had just begun. Asterisk. The sun was setting when the human and the alien girl left the noisy market. A faint red light spread across the sky, making her green skin glow softly like a gem. Her hands were still tied, but her eyes remained wild and sharp. She walked silently behind the human, waiting for his cruelty to show, like all the others before him, but he did not hit her. He did not pull her harshly. He simply walked with a steady pace, occasionally glancing back to make sure she was still following. At last, they reached the human's small camp outside the city walls. It was simple, just a small tent, a fire pit, and a worn-out chair. The alien girl scanned the place quickly. No cages, no chains waiting. She stood still, confused. The human turned to her. "Sit," he said, pointing to a log near the fire pit. She did not move. The human chuckled softly. "You're not a slave to me. Sit or don't. Your choice." His words were strange to her. Choice? No one had given her a choice before. Still, watching him carefully, she sat slowly, her legs stiff from standing all day in the cage. The human knelt by the fire, starting it with practiced ease. Soon, the flames danced, and the air grew warm. The girl's eyes followed his every move. She expected tricks, traps, or weapons, but none came. Then the human brought out some food. Dried meat, some fruits, and water. Without a word, he placed some in front of her. She looked at it suspiciously. "It's not poisoned," he said, sitting across from her. "If I wanted you dead, I wouldn't have paid for you." She didn't touch the food. She just stared at him. After a long pause, she finally asked in a low, rough voice, "Why? Why what?" The human replied, "Why buy me?" He smiled faintly. "Because no one else did." She shook her head. "That's not a reason." The human leaned back, looking at the sky. The first stars were appearing. "I've fought many things in my life, monsters, pirates, beasts. But I've never met someone everyone feared so much without understanding them." She frowned. "You think you understand me?" "No," he admitted, "but I want to." His honesty surprised her. Most owners claimed they owned her, that she was just a thing. But this human, he was curious, not cruel. Still, she didn't trust him. Not yet. After a while, hunger overcame her pride. She picked up a piece of fruit, sniffed it, then took a small bite. It was sweet. She ate slowly, eyes still on him. "What's your name?" he asked. She stayed silent. "Fine," he said. "Then I'll call you what they called you in the market, Wild One." She hated that name, but she said nothing. "And me?" "I'm called Elias." She repeated the name softly. "Elias," he smiled. "Good, now we're not strangers." The fire cracked between them. Night deepened, and cold wind brushed past. Elias threw a blanket toward her. She caught it easily, but looked at it like it was a trap. "For the cold," he said. "You'll freeze otherwise." She hesitated, then wrapped it around her shoulders. Her pride still strong, but her body weaker to the chill. Elias watched her with interest. She was dangerous, no doubt, but there was something else, a sadness in her eyes, a tiredness she tried to hide. He knew there was a story behind her rage. Finally she asked, "What do you want from me?" Elias stared into the flames. His voice was soft but firm. "Nothing, but if you stay, I'll teach you. If you leave, I won't stop you." She didn't believe him. No one ever meant such words. Yet he did not chain her. He didn't lock her up. He didn't even keep a weapon close. She whispered, "You're a fool." Elias smiled again. Maybe, but sometimes it's the fools who change the world. The wild one stayed quiet, but inside, her heart was restless. She was used to fear and hate, but kindness? She didn't know what to do with that dot as the night went on. The stars above sparkled like a million eyes watching them. Two souls, one human, one alien sat by the same fire, neither friend nor enemy. Not yet, but the human's gamble had just begun. Morning came slowly, the sky painted with soft gold and orange. A thin fog covered the ground around the camp, and the air felt cold and wet. The wild one opened her eyes to the smell of fresh food cooking. She wasn't used to waking up without chains or a guard watching her. She looked around. She was still wrapped in the blanket Elias had given her. She could have run away in the night, but she hadn't. She didn't know why. Elias was by the fire, cooking some meat on a small pan. His back was turned to her, but he knew she was awake. "You slept quietly," he said. "I thought you'd run." She sat up slowly. "I thought about it. And yet here you are." Elias smiled without turning around. She watched his back carefully. Why didn't he tie her tighter? Why didn't he watch her all night? What kind of human was this? After a while, Elias handed her a piece of meat on a flat piece of metal. She took it carefully, still expecting a trick. But again, it was just food. She ate in silence while Elias packed his small camp. "Where are we going?" she asked, her voice still rough. Elias glanced at her. "Away from this cursed market. I have a ship waiting. We'll fly far from here." She narrowed her eyes. "Why take me?" he shrugged. "I already paid for you. And besides, I'd rather travel with company. Even if that company might kill me." She smirked for the first time. "You're brave or stupid?" "Both," Elias replied with a grin. "Once." The camp was packed. He stood and cut the ropes binding her wrists. She stared at him, stunned. "You're free to leave," he said. "Or stay, up to you." She rubbed her wrists, feeling the skin where the rope had marked her. She should have run. She could run now. But instead, she stood and followed him. Elias didn't look back. He knew she was behind him. They walked for hours through dusty paths, past strange creatures and rocky hills. The wild one walked without speaking, her sharp eyes always watching, waiting for betrayal. But it never came. Instead, Elias talked to her. "Where are you from?" He asked Dot. She didn't answer. "Do you have a name?" Silence. "Do you have family?" She kept walking. Elias chuckled. "You're not much of a talker." Finally she asked, "Why do you keep asking?" "Because I want to know," Elias replied. "You're not just some wild thing in a cage. You had a life before this. I can see it in your eyes." She looked away. His words hit something inside her, a memory she had tried to forget. After a long walk, they stopped by a clear stream. Elias knelt and drank from it. He waved at her. "Drink, it's clean." She knelt too, scooping water with her hands. It was cold and fresh. Dot, as she drank, she watched him. She realized he was strong, but he didn't act like a master. He didn't command her, he just existed beside her. "You're different," she whispered. Elias raised an eyebrow. "Different how? You don't fear me. You don't hurt me. Why?" He smiled gently. "Because I don't see a beast. I see someone who's been hurt too many times." She blinked, surprised. No one had ever said that to her. Dot suddenly. A loud howl echoed from the trees nearby. Both of them stood quickly. From the shadows, a group of hunters emerged. Not animal slavers. 3 of them, tall, with metal armor and long shock spears. They grinned when they saw the girl. Well, one of them sneered. "The wild girl escaped the market, eh? We'll take her back. She's worth a fortune." "Alive or dead?" Elias stepped forward, his eyes cold. "She's with me now," the slaver laughed. "Then you'll die too, human." Without warning, they attacked. Elias moved fast. He drew his blade, a long, heavy sword with sharp edges, glowing faintly blue. Steel clashed with electric spears. The Wild One watched, stunned at how easily Elias fought. He was skilled, dodging and striking with power, but there were 3 of them, and one landed a hit, cutting his side. Blood stained his armor, but he didn't fall. Seeing him bleed, something in the Wild One snapped. She let out a loud, guttural cry. She leaped forward, her nails sharp like blades, her body moving like a predator. She struck one slaver in the throat, ripping it open. The other turned, but she was already on him, her eyes glowing fiercely. Within moments, 2 slavers lay dead, and the last ran away, terrified. Elias stood there, breathing hard, staring at her. Blood dripped from her hands, but her eyes were fixed on him. "Why?" she asked. "Why fight for me?" Elias smiled weakly. "Because you're not a thing to be taken." She stood there, her heart racing. For the first time, someone fought for her, not to own her, but to protect her. And in that moment, she didn't know whether to fear him or follow him. The journey had just begun, but everything was already changing. Asterisk. The night after the fight was silent. The stars hung like tiny lights in the endless dark sky, and the cold wind whispered through the trees. Elias was resting by the fire, his side bandaged, his face calm despite the pain. The Wild One sat a few feet away, staring at the flames, but thinking of something else. Freedom. She glanced at Elias. He was injured, tired, slower than before. It was the perfect time to escape. She rose quietly, barefoot on the cold earth, moving like a shadow. She didn't even make a sound. She looked back once. Elias was still there, eyes closed, breathing softly. She didn't feel hate for him, but she didn't trust kindness either. Freedom was all she ever wanted. Without hesitation, she ran into the dark forest, her feet light, her breath steady. The wind hit her face, branches scratched her skin, but she didn't stop. She ran faster, deeper into the wild. After an hour, she slowed down, her lungs burning. She was alone, finally free, but the forest was not empty. A sharp whistle cut through the air. She froze. Shadows moved between the trees. From the darkness, figures stepped out, hunters, slavers, with nets and weapons. She was surrounded. Well, one of them hissed. "The wild girl, running alone. Did you think freedom was that easy?" She growled, her hands ready to fight. She lunged at the nearest hunter, slashing his face with her claws. But there were too many. A heavy net landed on her, pulling her down. She fought, but the ropes cut into her skin. The hunters laughed as they pinned her down. "She's still worth good money," one sneered. "The market will pay double for her now." They tied her tightly, harder than any rope before. She screamed in anger, but it was useless. Suddenly, a sharp sound echoed. Bang! One of the hunters fell, a hole in his chest. The others turned in shock. From the shadows, Elias stepped out, his gun smoking, his eyes burning with rage. His side still hurt, his body still weak, but his determination was stronger. "You should have stayed dead, human," a slaver shouted, but Elias didn't speak. He shot again, hitting another hunter in the head. Then he charged, sword in hand. Like a storm, the Wild One watched in disbelief. He was bleeding, limping, but still fighting. For her, one hunter ran at Elias with a spear, but Elias dodged and sliced his arm off in a single motion. Another tried to shoot, but Elias was too fast. The last hunter tried to run, but Elias threw his blade like lightning. It pierced the man's back, ending him. Silence returned. Elias stood there, breathing hard, blood dripping from his wounds. He staggered toward her, kneeling to cut the pun. Ropes binding her. "Why?" she whispered, confused. "Why come back?" Elias looked at her, his face tired but soft. "Because I said you're not a thing to be caught. If you want to leave, you can, but no one will take you against your will." She stared at him, her mind spinning. She had run from him, yet he still saved her. He didn't punish her. He didn't chain her again. She rubbed her wrists, feeling the marks from the ropes, and whispered, "You're a fool." "Maybe," Elias chuckled, wiping blood from his face, "but I don't like losing friends." "Friends?" She blinked. "Yes. Or at least ... I'd like to be." She was speechless. She had never had a friend. Not since before the slavers came to her world. Elias stood slowly, offering his hand to her. "You can come with me. Or walk away free. Your choice." She looked at his hand, hesitant. But for the first time in years, she felt something warm in her chest. She took his hand. "You're still stupid," she muttered. "I get that a lot," he smiled. They walked back to the camp, the stars watching above. The Wild One didn't know what future awaited, but she knew one thing. She didn't want to run anymore. Not yet. Not from him. Days passed since her escape, but the Wild One had not tried to run again. She stayed close to Elias, though she spoke little. She watched him carefully, every movement, every word. He was still a mystery. Why did he save her twice? Why did he never tie her again? She walked beside him through rocky hills and dusty plains. The two moved like shadows across empty lands, neither of them speaking much. Yet, there was a strange comfort in the silence between them. At night, when the fire cracked and the cold air surrounded them, Elias would speak softly to her, telling stories of other worlds, of stars she had never seen. He talked about the great human cities floating in space, the wars he fought, the friends he lost. She listened quietly, pretending not to care, but inside she was curious. One night, as they rested near a quiet stream, Elias held up a small glowing orb from his bag. It hummed softly with light. "What is that?" she asked, her voice gentle for the first time. "A star map," Elias smiled. "It shows the systems I've been to. See this light?" He pointed to a bright dot. "That's my home." She stared at the orb, eyes wide. She had never seen such a thing. "Where is your home?" Elias asked softly. She looked away. "Gone. Burned by slavers. I don't have a home." Elias said nothing. He simply turned off the orb and looked at the stars above. "Maybe one day," he said, "you'll have one again." His words stayed in her mind for days. A home. She had forgotten what that even felt like. As they traveled, she began to help him without realizing it, collecting firewood, watching the path for danger, even sharing water without being asked. She didn't understand why, but being near him made her feel less empty. One morning, as the sun climbed, she asked, "Why do you keep me close?" Elias looked at her and shrugged. "Because I don't want to travel alone. And because I believe you're more than just a fighter." She frowned. "What am I then?" Elias smiled. "That's for you to decide." His answer confused her. All her life, others decided who she was. A slave, a beast, a killer. But now here was a human telling her she could choose. That night, while Elias slept, she sat by the fire, staring at her hands scarred, stained with blood. Could she really be more than what others said? The next day, they reached a ruined village. Empty houses, broken walls, and dead trees surrounded them. "We'll rest here," Elias said. They entered one of the least damaged houses. The walls were cracked, the roof half gone, but it was shelter. She sat in a corner while Elias cleaned his blade and checked his bandages. Suddenly she spoke. "My name is Sira." Elias looked up, surprised. "Sira," he repeated with a smile. "That's a good name." She looked down, unsure why she told him. But it felt right. That night, they shared a meal. It was simple, but for the first time, Sira laughed softly when Elias made a bad joke. The sound surprised them both. "You laughed," Elias teased. "I did not." She smirked. They sat by the fire, no longer strangers, not yet friends, but something in between. A silent bond was forming between them, stronger than chains, deeper. Then fear. Elias looked at her, the girl once called wild, and saw not a beast, but someone lost, trying to find herself. And Sira, for the first time, looked at the human and wondered if she had finally met someone worth trusting. The bond was silent, but it was growing. And soon, it would be tested in ways neither of them could imagine. Asterisk. The wind howled over the ruined village where Elias and Sira had taken shelter. The sky was dark, thick with clouds. The air smelled of rain and something else, something heavier, like a warning from nature itself. Sira stood at the broken doorway, staring at the sky. She didn't understand why, but her body felt uneasy. Her skin tingling like electricity was crawling beneath it. Elias sat nearby, checking his weapons, unaware of the storm brewing in more ways than one. Then the ground trembled. Faint at first, but growing stronger. The earth shook beneath their feet. "What is that?" Elias muttered, standing quickly. Sword in hand, from the distance, trees cracked and snapped. A monstrous shape emerged from the forest, its size shaking the ground with every step. It was like nothing Sira had seen, 10 feet tall, covered in bone-like armor, with glowing red eyes and a mouth full of sharp fangs. A Greco's beast, a creature of destruction, one of the deadliest predators in the galaxy. Elias stepped in front of Sira, his blade raised. "Stay behind me." Sira felt a rush of confusion and anger. Why was he protecting her? She wasn't weak. She clenched her fists, her breath quickening. The Greco's roared, shaking the ruins. It charged at them, its massive claws ready to tear them apart. Elias attacked first, swinging his sword with all his strength, but the blade barely scratched the beast's thick hide. The Greco swatted him aside like a toy, sending him crashing into a stone wall. "Elias!" Sira screamed, running to him. He coughed, blood on his lips, struggling to stand. "Run, Sira. Run," he whispered. But she didn't run. She stood there, her heart pounding, watching the monster approach, its red eyes fixed on them, and something broke inside her. Her body grew hot, her skin glowing faintly. Her vision blurred, but her mind felt clear. For the first time in years, she let go of her fear, her anger, her sadness. She screamed not in terror, but in power. Light exploded from her body, green and gold, swirling like flames. Her hair floated as if caught in a storm. Her eyes shone bright white. Elias, barely conscious, watched in shock. Sira moved faster than any human could see. She leapt onto the Greco's, her hands glowing with energy. She struck its armored chest, and cracks formed where her fists landed. The Greco's roared in pain, trying to shake her off, but she was relentless. She struck again and again, until her hands broke through the bone armor and reached the beast's heart. With one final blast of energy, she destroyed it from the inside. The Greco's fell, lifeless, the ground shaking one last time as its body collapsed. Sira stood atop the corpse, her chest heaving, her body glowing. Slowly the light faded, and she dropped to her knees exhausted. Elias dragged himself closer, his eyes wide. "Sira, what was that?" She looked at her hands, shaking, confused. "I don't know. I never knew I had this power. I just felt it." Elias smiled weakly. "You saved us both." She looked at him, her voice soft. "Why aren't you afraid of me?" "Because," Elias said, pushing himself to sit up, "I knew from the start. You were more than just a slave, more than a killer. You're something special, Sira." No one had ever said that to her. She didn't know what to say back. She helped Elias sit up properly. The two of them looked at the dead beast together, then at each other. Sira whispered, "You didn't run, even when you knew." "I was dangerous," Elias chuckled. "I've seen many monsters. You're not one of them." She smiled faintly, the first true smile she'd given anyone. That night, As they rested by the fire again, Sira sat close to Elias, not out of obligation, but by choice. The bond between them was no longer silent. It was growing into something real. And now, with her powers awakened, the universe would soon know. Ira was no longer the untamable girl in a cage. She was something far greater, but the galaxy wasn't done testing them yet. The morning after the battle, the world felt different. The air was still, the sky clear, and the ruined village quiet as if the land itself held its breath. The massive corpse of the Greco's beast still lay in the dirt, a reminder of the power Sira had unleashed, but Sira wasn't the same anymore. She sat quietly by the cold ashes of the fire, staring at her hands, the power she had used. It still hummed beneath her skin, like a river waiting to burst again. She wasn't just a wild girl from a cage anymore. She wasn't just a slave, or a fighter, or a beast. She was something more. Elias stirred awake, groaning from his injuries. His face was pale, his body weak, but his eyes were steady as ever. He saw her sitting alone and smiled. "You didn't run this time," he said. Softly, Sira shook her head. "No, I didn't." "Why?" She looked at him, her voice steady. "Because I don't want to run anymore," Elias chuckled. "About time." She helped him stand, her hands surprisingly gentle. They stood together, overlooking the broken village, the dead monster, and the distant horizon. "What now?" she asked. "We go to my ship," Elias replied. "Then, wherever you want to go. The galaxy's open." She frowned. "Wherever I want." "Yes, you've earned that freedom." Sira looked at the sky, thinking of stars she had never seen. Then she looked at Elias, this strange, stubborn human who never gave up on her, who fought for her when he didn't have to. "I'll stay with you," she said, "until I figure out who I really am." Elias smiled, proud and relieved. "I'd like that." As they walked away from the village, Sira asked, "You never told me. Why did you really buy me back at the market? Was it just curiosity?" Elias paused, then answered honestly, "Because I saw someone in that cage who was fighting to stay herself. Everyone else saw a beast. I saw a person who refused to break." His words hit deep inside her chest. She had lived as property, as an object, as a curse. But to him, she was never those things. She was just Sira. And for the first time, she believed that could be enough. As they crossed the hills, Sira glanced at Elias and smirked. "You're still a fool, you know." "Maybe," Elias grinned. "But I'm a fool with a powerful friend now." Together, they laughed, their voices echoing across the empty plains. Somewhere out there, the stars waited. Enemies waited. Challenges waited. But Sira wasn't afraid. She wasn't a slave. She wasn't a monster. She was free. And with Elias by her side, she would find her place in the galaxy on her own terms. The girl once left behind on the auction platform. Was now unstoppable.